right, take a look right here. This is the coastal community of Rockport, Texas. You can see that storm surge right there. There's been a lot of wind damage, and the next concern, according to the mayor who I spoke to just inside of 30 minutes ago, says they're really concerned about the flooding that is likely to happen. Our Nick Valencia is there, and Nick, it is early, but the mayor says just about an hour ago, some assessment teams got out to see what kind of damage there might be. What have you been able to see?
Fred, we were here just after the sun came up, and what we saw on the way in, this community was especially hard hit by Hurricane Harvey. We've talked to community residents all morning long, and one of them just pulled up here to our live shot. Robert Jackson, you rode the storm out here, and everyone that I've sort of talked to says they've described it as just living hell. What was it like for you?
It was about the most stressful thing I've ever been through. All night long, it just blew and blew and blew. It never moved. Normally, hurricanes will kind of move. This thing just hunkered down right on top of us. And I was getting texts from people, you know, telling me that they were hearing all these crazy high wind gusts and everything. And I was looking outside and saw trees going down and roofs blowing off. It was pretty bad.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have come up to us asking us to use our satellite phone because they can't get in touch with your family. Have you been able to talk to yours?
Yeah, I got a little bit of word out, and maybe they'll be watching TV. Yeah. I got a couple of phone calls. A neighbor rode the storm out also, and they have an old-fashioned landline that doesn't require electricity, and I was able to make a couple of calls. So.
What was the worst of it that you've seen? We talked to the sheriff. He was talking about getting calls, roofs being ripped off home, walls toppling on people, and they couldn't respond.
There's a number of buildings that are completely flattened that have been here forever. I've lost 300, 400, 500-year-old oak trees in my yard, blown over, blown down. I've got a huge magnolia tree sitting on my roof.
You ever seen anything like this before?
Yeah, I've seen it before. I've never personally been through it before, but, you know, this is a really bad hurricane as far as hurricanes go.
We understand this is a community that has missed or sort of dodged the bullet, right? The hurricanes in the past have missed this community, and the sheriff told me about 50 or 60% of the town decided to stay because, because this is it is missed. It's been a missed target in the past.
I didn't realize that many stayed. I thought I was about one of the very few stupid ones that stuck around. It's my last one to ride out, I'll tell you that.
The experience was that harrowing.
Yeah, I mean, it was just all night long. I mean, I didn't sleep a wink. It sounded like a freight train with square wheels. It was just loud as it could be. And, you know, I just didn't know when it was going to take my roof off, you know.
Well, we're glad you survived. Your family, I'm sure, is even more happy. Thank you so much for taking the time. Good luck, and we wish your community well. We see just off to the side of me here, Fred, there's a sort of an impromptu press conference going on. First responders have been canvassing the area all morning long just to try to assess how bad this community has been hit. If you can make that out, some of those flag poles have been bent at the base. Just beyond that public safety center, you could see one of the cell phone towers that has had a lot of this just been damaged. You can't get a cell signal out of here. We're fortunate. We've been working to try to broadcast here for about the last hour using a satellite signal. Thankfully, we've been able to get up, but the community here has just really, no doubt about it, gone through a lot. At least 200 people, from what I'm told, are in a local shelter here. But the real emphasis, though, according to the Sheriff Bill Mills, is the concern about finding bodies in these homes. There was a very ominous and dire warning given by the local leadership last night, asking local residents who did decide to wait out this storm to write their social security number on their forearm and their names in case local officials had to recover those bodies. Those local officials are going door by door right now, and they're asking for all the help they can get throughout the state. This community here in Rockport still reeling after Hurricane Harvey touched down earlier.
Right, it is still early, Nick, early for teams to be able to get out there and assess. Just seeing those bent flag poles is striking. That tells quite the story of how forceful those winds were to your left. I'm wondering if you could kind of pan around to your right and kind of dictate for us what you're, do a little show and tell of what is, around you. I realize that's first responders, a building behind you, but perhaps it'll kind of give us an idea of the landscape there. The mayor did say this is a fishing and kind of art community, but tell us and show us more.
Sure, this is a generational community, a community that families have been here for a really long time. So I was talking to one of those local residents as we, let's just show you around here, Fred. I was talking to one of those local residents, and they were telling me that's part of the reason why people have decided to stay. They said they knew that they had the potential of being bad, and people here are so close that they wanted to stay in the event that their neighbor needed their help. Just down that road there that my photographer Steve Sorg is pointing out, that's the volunteer fire department, and we stopped by there when we first arrived and talked to some of those local volunteers. It's really a makeshift department, organized, I should say the collection of them is really college-age students. And when we knocked on the door, the look in their eyes, it's just so hard to describe. You know, their eyes, it's as if they've been, you know, hadn't been shut in hours. They all look like they had lived through an experience or just seen something near death. I asked one of them what it was like to go through it, and they just had no words here. Let's just continue to show you around Rockport.
Sure.
The first time that we're seeing this here on CNN. The extent of the damage here goes block by block by block. Flooding is a major problem here. Also, you see some of those down power lines. You see some of those light poles that have been bent, as it were. Houses, you can see they did take the precaution to board up some of their homes. There's some writing on there saying, "Go away, Harvey." And some of those other boards, you can't really make them out on camera, but I walked down there a little while ago, and the owner apparently had written every single hurricane that they'd been through on one of those pieces of plywood that they used to secure their house, just giving the indication that this community, it's not the first time that they've seen something like this. But let me show you this. This is something that really is interesting to me. This palm tree here, just how much it's been bent. These palm trees here on the side, the velocity of this wind, not only blowing out the windows to these police cars, also bending palm trees that, you know, are not easy to move. This community, you know, we were shocked when we first arrived ourselves. You know, I'm with a photographer who worked at Hurricane Katrina, a sound tech engineer who was there as well, and they were even impressed by the damage on the way in, just how significant it has been here in Rockport. It's going to be weeks before they recover. Right.
And so, Nick, the mayor mentioned earlier that he heard there were people who may have hunkered down in churches and even school buildings, but he wasn't able to confirm that. Is that something that you learned while you were there?
Yeah, we were told that they weren't able to respond to some of their calls. I was talking to the mayor as well as the sheriff earlier when we first got here, just as they were coming out of the Public Safety Center to look at you know, what had happened here. And they said they had about an hour-and-a-half window as the eye of the storm was coming over them for them to try to evacuate people. They said they were able to evacuate 20 people in one instance and get them to safety. But what really concerned them and what was really troubling for them, and I could tell that they were bothered by it, is that they were not able to respond to at least 30 cars. You heard in the interview there that I just had with Robert Jackson. The sheriff told me there was calls that he had of people that had their roofs ripped off their homes, people that had walls, they're reporting walls that had toppled on top of them. We spoke to another resident a little while ago who said that he knows of at least one family that is still trapped, their home surrounded by water. It was a really striking scene as well when we got here, as we were trying to establish our report here that we're doing now. As people were coming up to us, seeing us communicate on a satellite phone, a lot of people wanted to come up to talk to us to see if they could use the phone to communicate with their family. In fact, one of our local affiliates had called our assignment desk to try to get in touch with their crew because it had been hours before that they couldn't get in touch with their crew. Thankfully, they're okay. This community here, we're hoping that majority of them that decided to ride out this storm are okay as well. But we'll have to wait and see for that.
Yeah, we will indeed. All right, Nick Valencia, thanks so much. You're working with one of the best there in that photographer, Steve Sorg. I've been with him overseas and across the country, so he has seen a lot. He's got a great eye, and I know you all will be able to spot those areas where people need the most help there in Rockport, Texas. Thank you so much, Nick and Steve. We'll check back with you. Meantime, we're going to continue our live coverage here of Texas being hit hard by Hurricane Harvey. You're looking at Katy, Texas, and some of the damage sustained there just outside of Houston. We'll be right back.